All right, greetings and welcome, my friend, back again to the next episode here, the Red Delta Project podcast, live feed Q&A here on the RDP YouTube channel, Facebook, and Twitch stream. I'm your host, as always, Matt Schifferly, with another episode to help you be fit, live free, and escape the diet and exercise rat race. And let me be the first to say happy Quitter's Day. Yes, today is January 17th, which I guess is statistically the day that most people are to either today or by now have given up on their New Year's resolution. So that's why they collectively kind of call this Quitter's Day. And if you are still going strong on your New Year's resolutions and you're still keeping to your diet and exercise habits, congratulations, keep on trucking down. But if you are struggling or have kind of thrown in the towel and saying, another year, I couldn't quite do this, or I don't know how much longer I can keep this up, then this episode is for you, my friend. Because today I'm going to be discussing how to elevate your current habits beyond their current level of potential. Because ultimately, we make the mistake oftentimes of looking for that diet or that workout plan that's going to get us from A to Z, that's going to get us the body that we want or the performance or the health, when the reality is that very rarely will anybody ever find that sole single plan or ideology that takes them all the way. It almost never happens. So instead, it's always about evolution. It's about saying, okay, I'm going to do this thing, and it's not going to take me from A to Z. It's going to take me from A to B. And then once I get to B, then I'm going to need to modify and change and maybe even just go in a whole new direction. And you may not even get to point B. You might get to A point 1. And that's as far as it's going to take you. It's kind of like following the steps in Lego instructions, where it's like, okay, I followed step 1. I still don't have the fire truck. I still have a collection of pieces. I'm like, yeah, it's only been one step. And that's the mentality we want to have when it comes to our diet and exercise plans. It's not supposed to get you the results that you want. It's not supposed to get you everything that you're looking for. It's just supposed to, in most cases, either just barely get you started or get you to that next step where you're like, okay, now what do I do? What's the next part of that plan? And I was reminded of this the other day when I was talking with one of my my cubicle mates there. I just started a new job a couple of weeks ago, which is one of the reasons why my regular timing here on the podcast and live feeds are a little bit jumbled. I'm still kind of getting settled in my schedule. And he's this tall, fairly skinny dude and everything. I was telling him, talking about fitness because I'm the fitness coordinator for the company. And he's like, oh, yeah, look at me, how I was before I started to work out. And he looked like a completely different person. I'm like, holy smokes, dude, like you are much, much heavier, much more body fat and everything. I was like, wow, what? Okay, tell me the journey. Like, this is a big deal, because he had lost 60, 70 pounds and kept it off for many years. It's like, you do know that is a very rare occurrence. Most people fail to lose that much. And if they do lose that much, they fail to keep it off. So tell me your journey a little bit. And he's like, in all honesty, I never did anything too crazy. I just simply did the low-hanging fruit that was the most obvious, where he had gone through a bit of a rough patch in life. And he's like, okay, I can't keep living like this. I got to make some changes. And he just simply looked at what he did and was like, well, I can be a little more active. I could just go for walks. And so he started walking. And then after several weeks of that, he's like, if I'm walking, I bet I can do a little bit of running. And it wasn't anything crazy. I bet I can run to the end of the block or run around this block. And he started doing that. And then after a while, he's like, I could probably start to eat a little bit better too. And he's like, well, I'll just go to the grocery store and ground turkey and lots of vegetables and stuff for one meal and 2 meals and 3 meals. But he never adopted an ideology or a dogma or like, what's going to get me, although he just simply was like, well, what's the thing that I can do right now that's pretty manageable, that probably is going to work? And then once he started to get that under his belt and he got used to it, he's like, okay, now what's the next thing? And what's the next thing after that? And over the years, he just kept that mindset, and he never went online. He was like, what's the best diet and what's the best way to lose fat and what's the optimal heart rate zone or anything like that. It was just, Well, what's the most obvious thing that I can do that's probably going to work? And there you go. And I've come across this example many times with individuals who have been in fitness or enthusiasts for a while, and they'll tell me, they're like, when I started out, things were a lot simpler and easier because I didn't know any better. I didn't know about optimal programming or what's the best macronutrient ratios or anything. I just looked at what I did and was like, yeah, I probably don't need to eat 3 candy bars a day. I'll just cut back to one and then one every other day and stuff. It was just the simple stuff that seemed fairly not obvious, but fairly basic. And most of the time, that's the way to go. When people come to me sometimes and they're like, I don't know what to do next, I don't know what to do, I'll often just turn the question right back around on them and say, give me 2 things you can do to improve your diet. Give me 1 thing you can do to make your workout more effective. And it always comes out with something great, like, oh, I often will skip one of the workouts a week, or I'm not very consistent where we're working my legs, or I'm still drinking quite a bit of wine every night with dinner and stuff. Like, well, there you go. There you go. Because a lot of times we know intuitively what we need to do for the most basic results. And we don't need the internet. We don't need AI. We don't need coaches like me and stuff to tell you this stuff. The old ironic joke is that my job is to tell people to do the things they already know they should be doing anyway. Granted, a lot of times we're kind of stuck like, oh man, I've got this challenge and I just can't figure out a way around it, which is what we're going to be talking about today. But a lot of times it's not about following the plan, because ultimately your success in fitness doesn't come from following a plan. It doesn't come from eating clean and following the routine perfectly. It comes from consistently achieving a fundamental objective. Are you challenging the strength of your muscles if you want to get stronger? Are you satisfying your nutritional and hunger appetites for a healthy diet? Are you able to challenge your muscular work capacity to stimulate muscle growth? That's the thing that determines your success, not whether or not you're in zone 2 in cardio or you're having the perfect macronutrient ratio. Not that that stuff isn't important. That can be great. And I highly recommend exploring those things. But no, you're never going to hear me say, if you do this habit, you're going to get this result, because that's just not how fitness works. It isn't how it pans out. If it was, then we would see that working reliably on a consistent basis. Yep, everyone who follows this diet loses weight and keeps it off. Everyone who does this workout builds 10 pounds of muscle and they keep it. That just doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. When I was talking with my coworker there, I was like, have you heard of the National Weight Control Registry? He's like, no, what's that? And they're like, it's this massive database. I think there's like 30,000 people in it at this point, over years and years and years. And in order to qualify to contribute to it, you have to have lost at least 30 pounds and kept it off for at least, I think, like 5 years or something. And it just collects all the information of like, how are people successfully losing weight? And the general consensus around it is there is no consistent diet plan. There is no consistent exercise plan that's responsible for all of this. Instead, it's, again, the low-hanging fruit stuff. They eat plenty of wholesome foods, they're satisfying the nutritional needs, and they're physically active. That's pretty much about the only consistencies. There is no consistent diet plan that reliably makes people lose weight. There is no consistent workout plan that's making that happen, which is a good thing, because that means you've got a lot of flexibility and leeway to do things your own way, to do what you want to do. If you don't want to run, you don't have to run. If you don't want to go to a gym, you don't have to go to a gym. And that's what's great about it, is that we have so much more freedom and flexibility in achieving success than a lot of the dogmatic ideologies will tell you, like, this is the right way to eat and this is the one way to lose weight. No, it's not. It's just one way you can do it. It's like telling folks, oh, if you want to be able to drive to the airport, you have to drive a Ford pickup truck. It's like, okay, you can, sure, but do you have to? No. So if you don't have a Ford pickup, or you don't want a pickup, don't worry about it. You're not losing out, kind of thing. I love doing this sort of thing with your on different days because I got a lot of newcomers in here. A lot of folks going like, what going on here? I love it because when I do this on a consistent basis, I get the same folks coming in, the RDP community and stuff, but a lot of newcomers in here. So welcome, my friends. Stick around, you might learn something fun. So when we're talking about elevating your plan beyond what you're currently doing, the first step, of course, is to know that you want more than what you're currently getting, and you feel like things are getting a little bit stale. Rule number one, though, of an effective workout plan is don't mess with the plan. So if your current diet and exercise plan is working for you and you're getting results and you're getting change, then I highly recommend just stick with it, because that happens a lot. In over 25 years of coaching folks, people will come to me and they're like, been following this workout plan, been following this diet kind of thing. And, I've been losing a pound a week or been building muscle on a consistent basis and I'm looking better and I'm feeling great and stuff. I'm going to change it all up now. I'm going to completely overhaul it and do this thing I saw on social media or something. It's like, oh, why? You're going from something you know is working and know is being effective for you, and now you're just going to roll the dice and take a gamble on something else that just kind of sounds fun and exciting. And a lot of times the ability to get results that you want is just staying the course with something that is proving to work to at least some degree. Because, yeah, we crave novelty, but you don't need things to be different all the time. We just need things to be better. And if you just crave novelty for the sake of novelty, that's how we end up running around in circles, just trying randomly different things. And ultimately it looks different and it may even feel different a little bit, but you're actually not doing anything different, or maybe even worse. So if you are getting what you want out of the plan to some degree, just stick with it right there. But if you're starting to feel like the stress is mounting on body, mind, and lifestyle, or you feel like something's not very productive, like I'm doing all this cardio, but it doesn't seem to be working and stuff, then that's when stress starts to mount up and it builds. Stress on the body, physical burnout, exhaustion, soreness in the joints. You just are starting to lose your enthusiasm for the exercise. Motivation is starting to go down. And always remember, motivation is crucially important for your success. Basically, your subconscious is telling you that what you're doing isn't working very well. And the desire to quit is certainly there. So when you have that desire to quit, remember that's not necessarily a sign to quit. It's a sign that you need to change and evolve beyond what you do. Hey, your plan was supposed to take you from A to B. You're at B. Now it's time to change things up. It doesn't mean you should abandon all hope of getting the results that you want. It means you're ready for the next step. Because like I said at the beginning, no plan will take you as far as you want to go in and of that plan. No, there's no such thing as an optimal plan or a perfect plan. Everything has its flaws. So when you're ready for the next step, what can you do? Well, first and foremost is, again, always recognize that your purpose of your plan is to help you consistently achieve your fundamental objectives in fitness. If you're trying to lose weight, are you in a caloric deficit? If you're trying to improve performance, are you trying to improve your proficiency in an activity? If you're trying to build muscle, are you challenging your muscular work capacity on a consistent? That objective is always your compass needle upon which you base all decisions that you ever make in your diet and exercise habits. And if you don't know what that objective is, everything you choose is always going to be a blind guess and a gamble, regardless of how you're going about it. It's like, well, this plan burns fat, so what? No one ever lost weight by burning fat. Oh, this plan builds muscle. There's no such thing as a muscle building plan, because that's all it can do is stimulate muscle growth potentially. The ability to build muscle depends on 100 other things outside of that workout. So you're only going after that fundamental objective, and that's going to give you the best chances of getting that result that you want. So when you are trying to decide what works and what doesn't work with your plan, you're basically saying, what's my objective, the compass needle, and what choices do I have in order to either to fulfill that objective to a higher degree. So you're challenging your work capacity more, or you're getting into more of a caloric deficit, or are you able to do it on a more consistent basis? Because those are the two outcomes that you can strive for. You can get it to a higher degree, and you can do it on a more consistent basis. That's all that you can possibly make happen. And the ability to make your choices is what exercises are going to help you challenge your capacity more. And again, if you just sit down and you don't need to comb through research and just think about it. Just consider your experience. Consider the things in front of you, because the answers that are going to give you the best potential should be fairly obvious on their face. Like I was talking about my friend over at work, I was like, yeah, I bet if I eat less junk food and eat better protein and vegetables, that's going to improve my diet. Yeah, no doubt. Of course. So that's the sort of answers we're looking for. We're not trying to split hairs and figure out the small things that you can do that are going to add up in 10 years. We're talking about the big stuff that's going to add up in the next 3 to 5 weeks. And that stuff is always going to be individual to you. If I said, okay, cut back on drinking, and you're like, but I don't drink alcohol. It's like, well, that advice doesn't do you any good, does it? But if I said, what can you do to reduce your caloric intake from particularly like luxury calories, then you probably can have an answer right there, because you know your experience. This is why the experts and stuff on social media don't really have the best qualifications for helping you, because they don't know you. They don't know your life. They don't know your experience. But you do. That's why here at RDP, we're always about you should be the one in charge, not the diet or the expert or the coach or anything like that. You're the one who should be doing things, who are going after what you want. So let me give you some ideas here. Let's say, for example, you started off, you're trying to build some muscle, right? And you got on a push-up program. And the push-up program was like 100 push-ups a day or something. Okay, great, fine, good. Can you challenge your work capacity with 100 push-ups a day? Absolutely. Can you build muscle with that? Sure, why not? Just got to challenge the capacity. Just got to push the muscles close to failure. That's all you got to do. But after doing that for a while, you're starting to get kind of burned out on push-ups. You're starting to get pretty tired of it and stuff. Your shoulders a little achy and stuff. So you're like, okay, do I quit this? Do I quit the 100 push-ups a day? Probably. But it's not because you're stopping the pursuit of your goals. It's you're quitting that plan so you can elevate and evolve into a better plan. So you're like, yeah, it started to work. It started to get something there. But I like the whole body weight thing. But what do I do from here? And then you think, well, maybe I should work more than just push-ups and get some other things. You can go on my website, on Red RDP's YouTube channel. I've got over 3,000 videos there. Tons of ideas, tons of workouts, tons of micro workouts, tons of bodyweight-based ways to build muscle. So you could just go on and start to explore and be like, okay, here's a push-pull squat routine. That sounds like fun. And I think I'm going to go and invest in like a power tower or something. Or, oh, I figured out that there's a park down the street with pull-up bars and stuff I can use. Great. There's your next approach. There's your next evolution. And a lot of people don't take the step to implement it because they want to be sure. They want to be like, well, I want to know it's going to work. I want to be sure it's going to work. Sorry to break it to you, but certainty is the refuge of fools and cowards. Certainty does not exist when you're going into a creative space, because no one knows what's going to happen in the future with anything. Even if there's a plan that works for 1 million people reliably, there's no guarantee it's going to work for you. So the only way to know is roll up your sleeves and give it the old college try, to be able to implement and experiment. And I know we want it to feel like it's going to be more of a certain thing, but that can hold you back from taking action. And then you go down internet rabbit holes, and then you do endless research, and you get paralysis by analysis, and then you get even more stuck because you're trying to know for sure what's going to work. And the folks who get results jump off into the deep end of the pool, and they're like, well, I pretty much know how to swim, but I'm going to figure it out too while I'm there. It doesn't mean take reckless risks or anything, but it does mean that you're going to have to take some degree of chance and go into things that, yeah, I think that stands a good chance of moving me forward. I'm not 100% sure, but there's probably a good chance of it. Like, great. Then you're going to go into with that sort of thing. Good question here. saying, brother, I'm very confused about making a workout plan. Is bench press, barbell row, squats on day A, and deadlift, lat pull down, overhead press on day B 3 times a week a good idea? So I'm assuming you're going with an ABA, BAB kind of plan with this, which is classic. I write up that in all of my books. That's a classic approach. So let's analyze this in chain training when it comes to your ability to stimulate your body as a whole. So let's see. Bench press is push chain, row is pull chain. You got horizontal squats, squat chain, day A. I love that. That's great. Wonderful. And deadlift, extension chain, lat pull down, vertical pull. Oh, I see you're going horizontal verticals. Yeah, this is, I love the balance. I love the focus. I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, granted, I have no idea what you're trying to accomplish with this. And I mean, assuming muscle and strength, of course. But yeah, I love the balance. I love the focus. And I love the fact that you've got like 3 main exercises here. Because as I talk about, particularly in Beautiful Strength, that, keep in mind that you've got 2 to 3 good workouts a week for this type of training. 2 to 3 exercises, 2 to 3 sets is the 2 to 3 general rule. It's a good framework to embrace. So if you're applying that 2 to 3 hard work sets for each one, I like this a lot. Now, it doesn't matter what I think, remember. Objectively, I'm just looking at this like, balance is good. You're getting your primary change. You don't have anything for flexion or lateral, but that's okay. Those are kind of the minor chains anyway. And you can just get some leg raises on the bench, and you can, get some suitcase carries or something as part of a warm-up. But this is very good. I would go with it, and then your experience with it and how your body responds to it, that's the information that tells you where you go from there. Because as I was saying before, like, your experience tells you everything. And that's why keeping a workout log is so vitally important. Because when you have a log, you are assessing, analyzing, and planning your workouts much better. So a lot of times when people, and I've done this too in my own workouts, if I'm feeling stale and I'm just running around in circles, I'm not really doing anything, and one of my fellow coaches will be like, well, are you tracking your workouts? Are you keeping a log? And I'm like, not really, no. And then they usually smack me upside the side of the head and we're like, well, dummy, no wonder you're in a plateau and you're circling the wagon, so to speak. So it's like, yeah, start writing things down. All you got to do is write what you did, contemplate what you did, and consider, okay, what can I do to improve this? And just that process will literally make all the difference in the world. And you write it down. You don't want to trust your success to your memory. You write down, make sure press glutes and hamstring engagement for more stability in the bench press. Or make sure I'm bracing my core more and packing my shoulders down with the barbell back squat, whatever. These things will be obvious if you're looking for them. If you're not looking for them, then opportunities just go right by you and you never see them. So write them down, and then in your next workout, you're like, oh, that's right, pack my shoulders in the barbell back squat. Okay, yeah, okay, great. And literally that's what is the difference between someone who is in an endless plateau and someone who makes progress. It's not about the science behind the routine and all that sort of thing, which is great, but just considering, well, how can I do this just a smidge better next time? And writing that down so you remember and you see that and you're like, that's right, I'm working on engaging my glutes more at the bottom of the squat or whatever that is. That will make all the difference in the world. But yeah, program like that, that's fantastic. Training weighted pistol squats, good for you, Timmy, good for you. Now, remember with the weighted pistol, when you hold on to the weight, the resistance on your muscles depends on where you're holding the weight. And so a lot of times people will do weighted pistols and they'll hold like a dumbbell or a plate way out in front of them. And they're like, wow, that's easier. I'm like, yeah, because you have more leverage in front of you. That makes pistols easier, which is great if you need it to be easier. But if you pull things closer towards your chest, things get a lot harder really quickly. I remember years ago, I was doing weighted pistols. I was using literally just rocks. I just found river rocks and I was holding them in my hands. And a friend of mine gave me heavy lifting chains. And I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. So I draped the chain over my neck, kind of like just a weighted pistol. And I was like, oh, okay, this is like a 8-pound chain or something, no big deal kind of thing. And it felt like I was trying to do it with an elephant on my back. I was like, what the heck? It's like, because the weight was central on my torso instead of way out here. So you can adjust the resistance, not just with how much weight you're holding, but where it is relative to your torso. Have fun with it. So following up on that, so Punta's saying, maybe I can add some lateral raises, traps work, calf raises, barbell bicep curls. Yeah, so this is level 3 style train, single joint stuff in beautiful strength. So yeah, add it in, but here's my recommendation is add it in towards the end of the workout as kind of a, finisher moves, cherry on top kind of stuff. Because the big stuff that you're doing beforehand is the lion's share of what you're going to get. However, single joint stuff can absolutely be very effective for challenging the capacity of specific muscles, barbell curls and stuff like that. That lateral raise will actually be more trap work than you may realize. Because if you're doing lateral raises and the hands are slightly in front of you, then you're hitting your shoulders. But if you pull back quite a bit, like really squeeze your shoulder blades together, that's going to get your upper traps to a high degree too. So you're going to get your shoulders and your upper traps, which ultimately should be working in concert anyway, to a high degree with that. So I think the lateral raise and barbell curls would be a good finisher. And what I would do, since you're on an A-B split, do the lateral raises on day A, and do the barbell curls on day A, because you got the row, so it'll give you a little extra chef's kiss for the biceps off of that. And then do the lateral raises on day B, because you got the overhead press, and that'll finish off the shoulders nicely. So that's what I would do if I were you. Hey, congratulations. Just did a pull workout the other day for the first time since my biceps tendon surgery. Congratulations. Way to get back to it. Way to get back on the horse, on the saddle there. Fantastic. Oh, let's address some troubleshooting here. So Greg saying, switch from weightlifting and calisthenics after buying Smart Calisthenics book. Yep, Smart Bodyweight Train. Workouts feel less satisfying for some reason. Any tips for making the transition more fun? Good question here. So it's very important that your workouts are satisfying because you need to feel good about what you're doing. And this is a big change that happens when people change up modalities, is they change up the programming that they're doing. And because they change the programming, the stimulus is different. And because the stimulus is different, that's where you're not going to do that. So first and foremost is I would look at, are you changing up your programming as far as sets and reps and exercise and stuff like that? And that is very common when people go from weightlifting to calisthenics, is they like, okay, I was doing like 5x5 on a bench press and nice and heavy. And now with calisthenics, I'm trying to do 100 push-ups. Well, that's the programming equivalent of fundamentally saying, okay, I did 5x5 with, let's say, 205 on the bench press. Now I'm just going to go into the gym and just lift an empty barbell as much as I can. And then you're like, but it doesn't feel as satisfying. And people are like, well, duh. you're lifting, you went from lifting heavy to lifting very, very light. So when you are programming, you want the reps and the sets and everything to change, to basically stay the same. Because remember, calisthenics is just fundamentally another form of weightlifting. Nothing should be different. If you're doing 5x5 on the bench press, you should be doing 5x5 on push-ups. If you're doing 3x7 on pull-up, on like a barbell row, you should be doing 3x7 on bodyweight row. And you have to progress your technique in order to do that. Because if you're using a different level of resistance, of course it's not going to be as satisfying. You're doing regular push-ups and I can do 50 push-ups, but I'm stopping at 5. I'm like, well, of course not. You do harder push-ups, archer push-ups, weighted push-ups, RTO push-ups, dips are a form of push-ups, weighted dips, that sort of thing. You want to make sure the programming is the same for that sort of thing. And the mistake I made, because Smart Bodyweight Training was the second book I ever wrote. And as a new author at the time, I basically made the same mistake a lot of authors make, which was I want to pack everything I know into one book, which it just gives you a ton of information and it's harder to apply it. So that's why things like my Grind Style Calisthenics is a much shorter book because this is more applicable. So because you came on here, Greg, and because you're applying things, email me, reddeltaproject@gmail.com, and I will get you a free copy of Grind Style Calisthenics, and you can apply that in the 4 phases and see if that makes a difference as a reward for coming on here and asking questions. You took action, you took initiative, and you're not giving up on the idea. You're just saying, okay, what's going on, which is very good. So I want to reward you that. Again, email me, reddeltaproject@gmail.com. IT ban. My left IT ban is really irritated and has been for a long time. Sorry to hear that's a tough one. Mainly because I do a lot of jumping for parkour and gymnastics and aerobics. Yep. What do you recommend alleviating it? So whenever we have the ability to change something, I always recommend get eyes on the issue first. I mean, IT banned, any information you get on the internet is pretty darn close to worthless because I don't know you, I don't know your technique, I don't know what's causing it. Physical therapist, chiropractic, and not so much chiropractic in this case. Here in Denver, we've got this place called the Denver Sports and Recovery, and they do like work on all professional athletes and stuff like that. So see if you can get someone to evaluate you in person if possible. Because that is always the gold standard for coaching and for assessment on what's going on, is that. Second is whenever we have tendon irritation, know that that is a long time healing. And it usually means some muscle in your chain is not doing its supportive work. So the IT band, that's your tensor fasciae lata and the hip, and it's hip flexor and a slight external rotator and things like that. So when you're looking at that muscle, it gets a lot tight, especially if you sit quite a bit for work and just, you're sitting quite a bit, those muscles get tight. Then you're going into explosive stuff. And if the muscle is weak and tight, that tightness goes right down into your IT band. Generally, that's what's going on. So it could be a number of things. So I would recommend, of course, don't do things that hurt, always work around pain. Decrease volume. A lot of times volume is the culprit here because we can support the stress in our tissues very well when we have energy, but when we get tired, that's when that supportive tension decreases, and that's when we start to get problems, wear and tear and stress. And now that you have the injury, that happens even faster and more often. So you may need to take a bit of a break from anything that you're doing high volume. Make sure that you're warming up thoroughly before you do any sort of plyometrics. I've always kind of gone along the idea that was given out in Convict Conditioning 3, Explosive Calisthenics, of using the rule of 3. If you're practicing an explosive thing, you do 3, 6, or at the most 9 repetitions. You don't do 30 of them. You do like 3 because it's meant to be intense as far as power and explosiveness. You don't want to exhaust your muscles. It's not supposed to be very fatiguing. So if you're seeking fatigue on any of these things or pushing through fatigue, cut that way back because that's certainly contributing to the issue. So I covered a lot there. Get it looked at if you can by a professional. Cut back on the volume or the intensity. Maybe just maintain strength or build up the strength with more traditional strength training exercises, and make sure that your programming is such that you're not fatiguing supportive musculature. That's what I'm guessing at. And believe me, anything you get when it's the approach that is something on the internet, it is a guess. So reddeltaproject@gmail.com. Again, folks are asking. It's not hard to figure out. reddeltaproject@gmail.com sort of thing. So yeah, 3 sets of 10 box jumps, 360 jumps kind of thing. So remember that when it comes to our exercises, we could do something different, but it's not really that different fundamentally. So this is a big mistake a lot of people make in calisthenics, where they've got like 5 different pull-up variations. And they do like 3 sets of 10. So at the end of the workout, they've done a ton of volume on pull-ups. But that's, even though it's a little different, like in this case with jumping, like I do this kind of jump and that kind of jump and this kind of jump and that kind of jump and da 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 da. Like that's a lot of jumping. It's a lot of jumping. Even though you're changing it in a small way, it's not really that much of a difference. So you're still doing a ton of jumping. So I would say, just offhand, just ballparking, no more than 2 to 3 jump variations for 2 to 3 sets. Just kind of go with that for right now and see if that takes the stress off a little bit. Three sets, 360. So when it comes to, like, this is what we're talking about, evolving beyond your current level, is, once again, whenever we're looking at our fundamental objectives that we're trying to achieve, look at things that are holding you back from it too, okay? Look at what is limiting your potential. So again, in grind style calisthenics, I talk about you're only as strong as you're stable. So we're talking about weighted pistols and calisthenics and things like that. So if you're doing an exercise and you're kind of doing the unstable, unbalanced sort of thing, no, that is holding you back 100%. Because if you're unstable during an exercise, there's no way your nervous system is ever going to allow you to put a lot of strength and intensity into that exercise, because your nervous system is built more for protecting you than building you up. So look for limitations that are holding you back, like riding a bicycle with the brakes on. I did that once when I was racing in college. I had a broken brake and it was rubbing against, and you're working twice as hard for half the result when that happens. So look for the things that are holding you back. It's not necessarily about doing things to a higher degree or better, but it's oftentimes looking at what's holding you back, what's limiting your potential to create the stimulus you want in your workouts and adapt to that stimulus. And a lot of times, excessive work is exactly that sort of thing. It's holding back your recovery. It's holding back your adaptation. This is one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of restrictive diets, because in most cases, fad diets and stuff, they just hold you back. A healthy diet is not about avoiding, sugar, carbs, or seed oils or anything like that. That doesn't make your diet healthy. What makes your diet healthy is whether or not you're satisfying your appetites. You're supporting yourself with nutrient-dense food. And a lot of times diets will hold you back. So even though you're successful in following an ideology, you're not successful as much as possible in achieving a fundamental objective. And this is why, folks like my mentor, Zach Evanish and stuff, talk about no rules training or breaking and bending the rules, and why that's actually better for you. It's because, yeah, you are bending and breaking the rules of the ideology. This is the way you're supposed to eat. This is the way you're supposed to train. This is the way you're supposed to program your workouts and stuff. Good recommendations, good templates to start off with. But a lot of times you're going to further achieve the objectives you want on a more consistent basis by bending or sometimes even breaking the rules. So case in point, my parkour dude saying, the program says I need to do all of this jumping technique, or I need to do it this way. I'm like, yeah, well, let's bring it down quite a bit. Like, well, that's not what the rules in the program are. It's like, yeah, well, do you want the success of following the program, or do you want the success of actually achieving your objective? That's a legitimate question, because I've certainly followed programs before where I'm like, yeah, I know this program isn't going to be the best way for me to get what I want. I'm doing it as a challenge, so my goal is to follow the program. I know I'm not going to be the best approach for building muscle or strength or whatever I'm going after. I just wanted to do this challenge. So the program or the plan is the goal, not the actual results. It's kind of like when you run a race, run a marathon. When you run a marathon, your goal is not to be healthy. Your goal is not to lose weight. Your goal is not to be strong. Your goal is to run a marathon. And a lot of times people make the mistake of thinking, well, if I can run a marathon, then I'll be leaner and healthier and stronger and all these sorts of things. Maybe not. Maybe not. And this is why it's always so important to know exactly what you're going after. Because humans are actually really good about getting what we set our mind to. We're really, really good at that. But when your goal is to achieve the ideology, to eat according to the diet or to follow the program or whatever, then you're taking your eyes off the prize of what your actual result is. I want to build muscle. I want to look better naked. I want to have a stronger bench press, whatever. Right? Make the goal your goal, not the ideology. So then you have the freedom to paint outside the lines, to say, I know it says to do it this way, but I'm going to do it this other way. Why? Because it gives me a better chance of consistently achieving my objective. You know, it happens all the time. People come on my show here and they're like, I'm doing this, but I feel like I'm better off if I change it this way. If I program it a little differently, or I eat more of this food or less of that food or something, I feel like I'm kind of better off making this change. And to that, I almost always say, yeah, you probably are better off making that change, because your subconscious, or maybe even consciously, you're like, I just don't feel like it's doing the thing for me. So case in point, you know, my guy earlier is like, I've been doing calisthenics since reading Smart Bodyweight Training, but it's not just working for me and stuff. Should I change? Yes. And the answer is yes. Maybe you need to change the programming. Another thing that I forgot to mention too is maybe you're better off doing the mix between calisthenics and weightlifting kind of thing. You know, if you're like, God, I just miss deadlifts and stuff, it's like, great, add them back in. Don't make the ideology your goal unless the ideology is the actual goal and you don't care about so much the actual results of your body. Good question here. What would you prefer, sitting pull-ups in straps or pull-ups on the bar with feet on top of a bench for more reps? Oh, good question. I mean, fundamentally, they're about the same thing. And again, this is a case of, well, kind of depends much more on what you prefer. I always like having mobile hands, the ability to twist and rotate or have a different angle than a straight bar would afford me when it comes to that sort of thing. You, on the other hand, could be like, I like the stability of a solid bar. I don't like the instability of the straps and the rings and things like that. So that's a case. I'm not saying that is the case, but you know, so many of the changes that we should make when it comes to diet and exercise literally should just be based on personal preference, not based on science, not based on, you know, the numbers on the back of a food. It's just like, I just like this more. I just like this tool more. I don't know why. I just feel better when I do it this way. That is more than enough reason to do that thing, is subjective personal preference. As long as you're still getting your objective met, it's going to get you the results you want. But a lot of times, things that align with personal preference mean you're going to do it more and you're going to do it more consistently. So that's what I would base that off of. Just what do you like? And you could maybe back and forth kind of thing. But generally, floor with straps is my personal preference. The floor is more stable than a bench. You have less risk of stepping down off of a bench when you're done. Over the years, you know, I haven't had too many clients, of course, get hurt or athletes getting hurt, but I'll tell you, the thing that gets people the most is just stepping down off of a ledge, stepping off of an aerobic step, stepping down off of a plyo box, twisting an ankle, or they've got a weight in their hands and they just tweak their back or something. I'm not saying it's going to happen or it's like, oh, it's so dangerous to step off of something, but just my experience has shown it's like stepping off of stuff is where we get the injuries for some reason. So I would go with floor and straps, my personal preference. But your personal preference is a hell of a lot more important than mine, because it's largely your, like, you know, people ask, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? To hell with what I think. My personal preference only matters to me. It's only important to me. It does you jack squat. It doesn't matter at all. But I can assess things based on a fundamental approach, which is what we do here. And that's going to be more important. Recommend exercise for upper traps. So I was talking about lateral raises can be a good upper trap exercise. Traps are one of those muscle groups that respond very well to integration rather than isolation. So back in the day, you know, I used to do a ton of, you know, barbell and dumbbell shrugs and everything like that, which fine. good enough. But now, if you wanted to do something of that nature with elevated shoulders, I would say farmer carries, because you're doing it in an isometric approach, which is a little safer for the thoracic spine and the neck. But also because you do farmer carries, a couple of kettlebells or something, and you're hunched up the entire time, man, that is a lot more time under tension for a few sets of that than you would do with shrugs. A lot more. And a lot of people go too heavy with shrugs. Again, my personal experience from doing that sort of thing, where you got a barbell and you got guys like, like moving an inch, like you want a big range. So that is more focused approach that I would do. Also, remember that if you have a muscle that is stubborn to grow, or you really want to kind of get it, don't just try to emphasize it with a specific exercise. Use that muscle more all the time with everything. And that's usually when people find that it's like, oh, this muscle is growing. Well, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just using it more in everything else I'm doing. So your traps, pull chain exercise. So every single exercise that uses your back should be a trap exercise. Pull-ups, rows, bicep curls even. Pack those shoulders, get those traps on big time. Any sort of overhead press work should be considered a trap exercise as well. Overhead presses with barbells. I didn't start to get much in my upper traps as far as growth until I started doing things like handstand and pike push-ups and things like that. So integrate your traps in all upper body exercises as much as you can, and then do like farmer carries as a cherry on top exercise afterwards. I think that's gonna be good way to go about doing that. Good question. What are your training goals for 2026? Man, I had a rough 2025, I'll tell you that much. I started 2025 saying, I just want to feel good, because I had a whole bunch of issues just before. I was like, I just want to feel good. I want to have energy. I want to have speed and power and everything. And it was like 2025 said, hold my beer. And man, I had so many injuries and illnesses and everything throughout the entire 2025. I had to invest a ton of time and money in just getting my body okay. And it wasn't because I was doing anything. It's like just aches and pains and stuff. I mean, I am almost 48 years old. I guess that kind of comes with middle age, but I was like, what the hell? So for 2026, that's still much the same. Just feeling good, continue focusing on building muscle, learning more efficient ways to get more done in less time and energy. But I have been working a lot more on some hamstring mobility training, because mobility has always been my Achilles heel, no pun intended, where even as a martial artist who stretches all the time, I've never improved mobility at all. I've never had any success in mobility. It's always been very bad, especially my hamstrings. So I've been doing a new hamstring mobility drill that is just a minute of a couple of stretches and stuff. So I'd like to see, I can't touch my toes. I don't ever expect to be able to touch my toes. I just don't want to feel as tight anymore. So looser. That's my goal for 2026. I want to feel looser. So that's what we're going on. But let's finish this episode with some practical takeaways here. Okay, so number one, if you're making progress and you're enjoying the journey, stay on it. Don't get distracted by fads and trends and, oh, look what this guy's doing on social media and stuff. Being able to get what you want requires focus. It's one of the tenets of Red Delta Project. It's why the point at the top of the delta represents focus on your objective. Don't get distracted, so stay the course. Number two, if things are getting stale and you're losing motivation and you're wondering how much longer I can keep this up, know that you don't necessarily need to quit. You just need to quit what you're doing for something better. And that, no, you don't need to eat or train perfectly according to any particular dogmatic ideology in order to reach your goals, because no ideology is responsible for your goals. It's whether or not you're consistently achieving your fundamental objectives. So make any changes you want and can make to your plan in order to better achieve your fundamental objectives on a more consistent basis. And if it goes against the rules of whatever guru says, so be it. Even my rules and stuff like that, like in double tap training, 2 working sets. If you're like, I just feel so much better if I've got 5x5, Yep, then you should do 5x5. To hell with what I say. I'm not in charge. Don't put me in charge. I'm not supposed to be in charge. You're the one who's the captain of your own ship here. Look for opportunities to better fulfill those objectives on a consistent basis, but also look for the things that are holding you back. Look for habits and behaviors or methods that are just kind of wasting your time. Things that are eating up time and energy and other resources, even money. But when you look at it, you're like, this isn't really helping me achieve a fundamental objective that well. Case in point, let's say you have a goal to build muscle and strength, but for whatever reason, you got it in your head that you got to run for half an hour every workout you do at the gym. Well, I can tell you that run, it's fine, that's good to do, but it doesn't do you any good for building muscle and strength. So if you look at that and you're like, I'm having trouble finding the time and the energy to work out, yeah, get rid of the run. Do some jumping jacks or, even just lighter versions of the exercise you're going to do. Cut it out. Reduce the things that are holding you back. And that often will help you propel and accelerate forward so much faster. So much faster. And as always evaluate what you're doing and plan for the near future. If you're not tracking your workouts in any way, shape, and form, do so. You could do this with other things too, with diet. One of my longtime clients who's lost over 80 pounds at this point, he said one of the biggest things that he started to do was just take little notes of how do you feel before you eat, during your meal, and after your meal. And he's just like, I never would have thought of it. I never would have thought of these. How do you feel? I don't know. I just feel I'm not hungry anymore, whatever. But he started to assess and analyze how foods made him feel and how he felt. And he's like, oh man, that, all Cheez-It and Dr. Pepper lunch or whatever, now I want to take a nap and stuff. And he's like, okay, I'm paying attention. Yeah, that's probably not the way to go about it, kind of thing. As Yogi Berra said, you can observe a lot by watching. So recording and tracking things is all about observing what you're doing. I'm not saying you need all the trackers and the Fitbits and all these sorts of things, just paper and pencil. Just think about what you did. Was that good? It's like, man, I had this for lunch today and I feel amazing. Like, probably points you in the right direction there. So just that can do wonders for me because we are headed into 2026. Today is supposedly, quitter's day and everything like that. And there's going to be a line in the sand between the haves and the have-nots by the end of this year. Hell, by the end of this month. And you have to make the right choices on, are you going to be in the camp of 2026 was great for me and I'm going to make 2027 even better? Or are you going to just resolve to try it again and start over from scratch and just get stuck in a loop? Choices are yours. It's not that hard to break out of the cycle. And as always, I am here to help you, my friends. reddeltaproject@gmail.com. I am available for questions and stuff. Of course, I'm busy as hell now, so it may be a day or so before I get to you. But if you have further questions or you want to learn more about my methods, of course, links are down below to the Red Delta Project bookstore. I've got over a dozen books on how to build muscle with strength with calisthenics, the equipment that I recommend, clothing like Anthem Athletics. This stuff is awesome for working out in. It's very, very comfortable. And everything that I recommend, and it's not much because there's a lot of stuff out there I don't really like too much, all down in the links there. Helps to support the channel. Much appreciated. Best of luck this week. And if you're a football fan, best of luck surviving the playoff. I'll talk to you folks next time. Until then, be fit and live free.